It was very overwhelming in the beginning. And I was like, man, you know what? There was a bunch of 1 out of 10 days in the very beginning where I was like, I'm TikTok. I'm gonna be a TikTok star. So I can
That was your next career.
that was my next career. I said, man, all these people
TikTok looking
very
really nice right now.
yeah, TikTok looking great.
Hey, thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the Driven Wild Black podcast. If you want to introduce yourself, let's go ahead and do that.
Yep, my name is Garrison Carr. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Decker Vonau Carr, where I'm a partner there. I've been an attorney since 2013, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to a great experience.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to hear more about your story. So you've been an attorney for almost 9, going on 10 years.
It'll always be 10 years. I think you get your bar results in like October or something. So it'll be 10 years next year. Yeah.
That's exciting. So was being a lawyer something that you always wanted to do?
Nope. I never thought I'd be an attorney literally until maybe 4 or 5 months before I took the LSAT. So no, I never thought about it. It wasn't on the horizon for me.
Okay, well, how did we get here? How did law school become on the horizon? How we see this? What happened?
Yeah, man, I graduated with a degree in psychology.
Me
Um,
too.
well, psychology alums here, and I had no clue what I wanted to do. I applied. Looks like it froze a little bit there. Sorry. I
It did.
applied at a ton of places, and a lot of times I didn't even get a response back. Um, and then I worked at a hospital already, and I was just like, this is not what I want to do for the next 30 or so odd years. At the same time, I had a friend who was going to Marquette, and this friend would tell me all about law school. At the time, she was working at this like 500 person firm.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that sounds so cool. I've heard of lawyers, but it wasn't something I knew. I didn't know what a lawyer did. I didn't come from a background where we had any lawyers. So I was like, you know what? This sounds like something I could do. And I took the LSAT, and here I am.
That's awesome. So you just heard about her experience with the 500 person law firm and decided that this is something that you are going to go for.
Yep. She was like, this is, well, she was like, I've been paid in this short internship more than I've ever been paid. And she would just tell me about the things she was doing. It was like conducive to my personality. I love to know how things work. And listening to her and then end up going to law school, you kind of found out everything around you and all around this world is because of some law. And
Mm-hmm.
I would have this kind of power, if you will, to work within that system and make some change if so. And I was like, I'm in love.
So that's exciting. So you learned about your friend, and laws definitely have something to do with everything. That
Yeah.
was one of the reasons why I pursued law. At least I went for the policy side initially. So, while being in law school, I learned so much about how laws literally are the skeletons to society. So everything to the outlets in your basement to the labels on your food have to do with law. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that that's
It was,
amazing.
yeah.
So what does a typical day look like for you as a Black lawyer?
Oh boy. you know, when I was nowadays, it's very straightforward. I have my cases that I've already accumulated, and then there's calls I get trying to win clients over. How being a Black lawyer affects that. If I start with winning people over, I get calls where people say I want a Black attorney. So I can only assume people call skeptical about getting a Black attorney. So demonstrating that I know what I'm talking about. My wife
Mm.
always says I give too much information on calls because I'm selling something to you, and all I have to sell is my time. So let me actually give you kind of a preview. Your issue, I know how to handle. here are some of the relevant laws, and then you hope people come along. Sometimes, especially if they're looking for one of the other attorneys in the office, I'm probably not going to sell them in any form or fashion. They want that attorney for whatever
Mhm.
reason. But sometimes when clients have been transferred over to me from one of the other attorneys in the office, I get that skeptical feeling from them
Mm.
until it turns out better than they expected, and then they're super grateful. But that's kind of like the day getting clients. A lot of the clients I have, I've, they came looking for me anyway. So,
Okay.
they were referred to me. They trust the work that I can do. And those are just kind of working like anyone else I think would work a case. Um, I bring some of my background to that with some clients because you just know how to have a conversation with them and it's going to go smoothly. I think another part of it, I grew up in a majority white neighborhood. So code switching, if you will, you know how to have that
Mhm.
conversation as well. But that's generally like my day. Now, there are times I can't put my finger on it as whether it's I'm a black attorney or I'm a younger attorney and they don't know me,
Mhm.
where
Okay.
older attorneys are, I'll call them like a problem attorney. But normally by the end of the case, any case I have with them, they really respect me because I'm like, this is what I this is what I do, and I guess in a short form. I love the competitive aspect of it, and I demonstrate that a lot during cases. And so, um, most people come out respecting me at the end, saying, whatever preconceived notion they had about a black attorney before, um,
Mhm.
I probably wiped that away.
That's awesome. You said a lot in context of being black and an attorney. You talked about code switching. You talked about it could be an age thing because you're also a younger attorney. You
Mhm.
talked about them asking for a white attorney, and then others also asking for a black attorney. You talked about the initial doubt from being from the client because you are a black attorney. Was there a moment where you realized that you were a black attorney? Like, did you go in with the recognition, like, oh, I'm showing up as black? Of course, we know we're black, and I could only assume that in law school there weren't many other black people. But as an attorney, was there like a pivotal moment where you're like, oh, I am a black attorney?
Yeah. Um, you know, again, growing, I literally went from a life in a majority white neighborhood in high school to a career where there's majority white people around. So I've always, it's probably something I maybe unconsciously recognize, but I think the first time I was like, someone here might take it away because I'm a black attorney was when I was um, accepting a position at a job. And the person that was hiring me was just like, hey, this is something you should understand before you start here. It's not many black people here that work here. And I
Mm.
just want to know if you feel comfortable with that. And, I was just like, I really want to say, I, I know I said something a lot more, uh, you know, uh, food better to eat, but I really want to say I've been only black person my entire life.
Most
But
of my life.
I know I'm good. I'm really good. That was the first time I thought, someone here might think differently about me because I'm a black attorney. But again, at another situation, at the end of that job when I left, uh, everyone there loved me. They knew what I could do, and they were sad to see me go. And that's out of their mouth. So that was probably the first time.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. What does a what does a 10 out of 10 day look like for you?
A 10 out of 10 day. We have billable hours in a law
Okay.
firm. So a
Explain
10
what
out of
that means a little bit.
yeah. So a lot of law firms, I guess you got to figure out how you're going to get paid by your client. and there needs to be
Mm-hmm.
some sort of metric. So if I bill at an hourly rate, I'm giving an example of $100. That's
Mm-hmm.
typically broken down into some measurement, like a tenth or whatever. Ours is a tenth of an hour, and then you kind of bill up 1/10, 2/10, all the way up to 1 hour. Um, and so our billable hours is what you need to have monthly. So you'll see a large firm, 500 attorney law firm is probably going to have 2,000 hours a year. You just do some simple math, divide that by 12. That's what you got to bill a month. Um, if I'm averaging my hours, I know what I need to bill a day. And if
So
I
what's
get,
a tenth of an hour? 6 minutes?
yes, it's 6 minutes.
So you have to record for every 6 minutes what you're doing,
Yes, essentially. So sometimes,
along
you,
with working.
if I'm drafting a motion, it'll be, I'll type out like drafting motion for summary judgment or legal research in support of the motion for summary judgment. But yeah, you're doing it. You get used to that because I found that would be something that I might forget sometimes. I mean, there's plenty of clients probably got some free work out of me in the beginning because I just forget. You're like, man, what did I do today? But as you get into it, you remember to do it. But yeah. So that's a perfect day. Getting my billable hours and having a satisfied client. If I have a
Okay.
demand letter out and the number comes back, I guess, if you will, at the level the client's happy with, and it's a pretty straightforward settlement. I get my hours, I got the demand back. That's a 10 out of 10 day for me. And then, I come home and everything's great here. can't
There
can't
you
hate
go.
that kind of day.
That's awesome. And what type of law do you practice?
So I practice a number of areas. I used to be a prosecutor, so I do criminal defense because it's probably like the easiest thing for me to do in a day. But I
Mm-hmm.
also do construction litigation, and that has to deal with, if you're in Columbus, it's all around you. Those end up in disputes, and I do litigation concerning those disputes. And I also do consumer protection, which is things like if someone does construction at your house and botches it, I'm the attorney you're going to call to deal with that matter. So I pretty much hang around those areas, but I'll do other areas depending on, what's going on with the situation, how close it is to criminal defense or construction. And then I have a huge probate and estate planning going on right now.
Okay.
So it's just the ebb and flow.
Okay. That's awesome. What is um a 1 out of 10 day look like for you? Or do you have a particular experience where you were like, yeah, so about this law thing, what's the next career? What
Yeah.
what was that for you?
Oh man. Um, like I said, I was a prosecutor for about 5 or so years. In that time, I learned everything you could do to be a prosecutor. I mean, I was uh, I had hit my stride. I wasn't afraid to try any case. But then I left the public sector and I moved to this law firm. And I thought this is gonna be easy. I know how to do criminal law. I'll be able to do civil, no problem. Well, I found out that civil and criminal law, you may be writing on paper, but you're not speaking the same language largely.
Mm,
So
okay.
learning that brand new language, and also trying to get clients and bill, it was very overwhelming in the beginning. And I was like, man, you know what? There was a bunch of 1 out of 10 days in the very beginning where I was like, I'm TikTok. I'm gonna be a TikTok star. So I can.
That was the next career.
That was my next career. I said, man, all these people,
TikTok looking
very,
really nice right now.
yeah, TikTok looking great. These people that don't even go to school and they got millions of followers, their houses are
Listen,
huge. I'm
and
gonna
the
get on
one guy who
TikTok.
didn't say anything and is now a millionaire said
I
nothing.
know. Well, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I know. The pandemic. I was like, when the pandemic happened, I wasn't thinking about TikTok. I was like, how are we gonna eat over here? he went straight to TikTok, and it worked out for him. But
And it worked out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So TikTok was the answer. What keeps you going? So what made you go to that next day?
Um, I can't quit. That's big for me. Um, I always have that fire in me that, this is competitive to me. I like to gain and gain and gain and the knowledge and helping people. I just can't quit. I work there with some great guys too, and you just have a responsibility. You say, hey, we're in this together. I made a commitment. Also, my family. Um,
Mm,
I'm maybe I have a little bit too much pride, but coming home and telling my wife that I went into this venture and then I quit with
mhm.
because it was too hard. I don't know. I don't want my kids to see that kind of thing out of me. If I do quit, it's probably going to be for some what the young people say now, the brand new bag, because I know that bag is coming. That'll be the day I walk away from the law.
And so for others, that interpretation would be a new lucrative opportunity.
New lucrative opportunity. Yep,
Okay,
right
yeah. All right.
there.
Just want to interpret for some of the folks
Yeah,
who don't know what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. A brand new bag, yeah. So you don't like to quit at all. That's not a thing for you.
No, that's not something in my game plan. I work everything to the last minute. Now, will I start at day one? No, but you already know when it's time to turn it in. I've turned in a beautiful product. Um, Anything I do, I don't like quitting. Um, and but it's benefited me in the law, especially.
That's awesome. I think you low key just told us that you're a baby procrastinator.
I am. Um,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Just I thought I heard it.
it did, it
It
did,
takes
it
one to
did.
know one. No.
Yeah, I
I
know.
like to say I'm waiting for the most opportune time. I think
Yeah,
about the things before I sit down and do them. So when
yeah.
it's time, I hit the nail on the head.
That's an actual thing. I mean, I've always been a person that I just think through the problem, think, and even if it's like 15 days till it's due, I've already written it in my head. Or if I have a
Mhm.
trial, I'm rehearsing my opening or closing, or even how a question is gonna land in my head, and then I write it down. And a lot of times it comes off the way I want it to. There are some of those times where you're like, man, that that went great in my head.
Not so much outside of it,
It's
huh?
not so much here. Yeah.
That's awesome. So would you consider yourself driven?
Oh, of course. I'm definitely. Probably because I have a chip on my shoulder, but I'm of course definitely.
Okay. And what does success look like for you? What is your definition of success?
Success for me is really if I'm serving my clients at work, if you will, serving my clients in the best possible way. Um, keeping up my bargain to the other partners in the law firm, um, and just being my authentic self during the day at work. And and if I can translate that to coming home and I'm giving that same commitment to my family, that's success to me.
That's awesome. So well-rounded, more than career, but also family.
Oh yeah, I would not do any of those hard days over again if I was like my family's not benefiting from it. I tell you, I'd be back in Cincinnati.
I understand. Do you have a creative side? So often when we're looking and talking about lawyers, we really just see, just the lawyer aspect. They're going to court and arguing cases, but we don't necessarily see the whole person. So what do you do outside of being a lawyer? I've heard you talk about your family, but what else? Who are you? What else does that look like?
Yeah, man, you know, I'm a very big video gamer. Like, um,
Okay.
my thing to unwind is to do something very mind numbing, like play a game that I know that
Video
doesn't
games.
matter if I win or lose. And it kind of just keeps my mind out of thinking about work. Um, that's kind of what I do. Hang out with my friends every time I go back to Cincinnati. Those are the things aside from being with family that I do to relax my creativity. So being a lawyer, really forces you to think in a specific kind of way. So that creativity, it's hard to bring that creativity into it, but um, I think I've been able to successfully bring some of the creativity that I grew up with into my
Okay.
profession too.
Explain that. What does that look like?
You know, oh man, criminal practice is it's not so much about it's about case law and the rote law, but criminal practice tends to be about who can talk the best in court to a jury or to a judge.
Mm.
And I grew up, you know, whatever people call it, playing the dozens, capping, making fun of each other. You got to be you're quick to in court. If you think quick, you say quick. You say it in the give the best delivery. Uh, that sways judges. That sways jurors. Um, and that creativity for me, I was able to kind of port it over. I said, if I learn the rules of evidence, I learn rules of civic procedure now. I would learn the criminal rules. I'm just substituting out the things I was saying before I came to law school with, what works for me now, and it's turned out great.
That's awesome. So you talked about the communication aspect and that human connection, especially in criminal defense, and being able to sway an audience to your client's favor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when when I'm curious as to how that skill translates, being a Black person navigating white spaces. So, how have you had any particular, what does that look like for you? You're at a majority white firm, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the only black person in the entire building.
Oh, the only Black
I'm
person
the
in the
only black
building.
person, and
Okay.
in my office and all the other offices in there. Yeah, but I'm the only black person in our firm. Uh, you know, again, I've known these guys in the firm for a while, so
Okay.
they know my personality. It's probably it'll be close to 9 or 10 years with them that I've known them outside of
Okay.
working with them, and now in court, you just being a black person, I've it just I don't know, getting along and with the people in the courthouse has been easier for me. I think being a black man makes it a lot easier. Um, and I'm tall, I'm dark, and I'm handsome, of course. And so
Hey,
yeah,
give yourself the
I know,
props.
I know, I know.
I'm
But
tall and dark, and I'm handsome, of course. I'm sure you can
yes,
see the screen.
yes. So that helps a lot.
Okay.
And again, I talk to you about the code switching. You just know how to have that conversation. And I keep it human at the same time. I'm not there to deceive anybody. It's just you learn things growing up,
Mhm.
and that's how it is.
Were you taught how to code switch? Like, how did that work for you? Was that something you acquired? Where you sat down? What did that look like?
Um, no one specifically taught me. It's just you grow up in a white neighborhood. You hear the way white people generally speak, um, and I just knew like the way my family, no one of my families talk that way. And I guess at the time and now maybe I look back on it, it was like another language, I guess, you know. Um, and so I just kind of develop it living and
Okay.
finding out what works and what doesn't work. Uh, and then my person, injecting the personality in with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's yeah, interesting. And you say you grew up in majority white schools? All
So,
around?
when I got to fourth grade, and I started going to the neighborhood school. My mom was a teacher at Cincinnati public schools, and one of the things they would let me do is go to the same school she taught at.
Okay.
So she was I went from majority black students around me to majority white students when I started going to the neighborhood school, where I ended up going all the way until I graduated.
Okay. That's awesome. Um, Interesting. I love culture and learning about different people. And I don't think we often give credit to when you are paying attention to other people and other culture, how you can translate some of those skills into your career. So Sounds like you did that. We call it code switching, but that's essentially what it is
Yeah,
learning the language of people and using it to your benefit or advantage. So,
yeah, yeah,
and then we happen to have to do it as Black people. Well, I guess we don't have to, but
yeah. I know.
we
Yeah,
often choose to. It makes the path somewhat more successful sometimes. So,
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. So that's one of the communication, it sounds like, is one of your tools of success. What other tools of success do you have or use in your toolbox?
Oh man, I think I'm able to pick up on concepts quickly and then put them into action. Um,
Okay.
that when you are in a small law firm is actually critical because large law firms you may not do a first chair deposition for years, first chair trial maybe longer than that. Small law firms, you get a case on your desk, it's it's sink or swim. So, um, you know, it took me about 6 months to feel kind of dangerous as a civil attorney, and I took full advantage of that, and that's really kind of saved me a lot. Is being able to go in, read the rules of evidence, and say, okay, I understand quickly how to apply this, because that's huge in civil litigation as well,
Mhm.
especially if you're in a courtroom.
That makes a lot of sense. Um what fuels you overall to continue to hone in on your skills as a lawyer, or just continue to be a lawyer?
Like honing on my skills, probably fear of embarrassment.
Okay.
Um, I can probably not recount to you any time where I think one time where I did something where someone would say, "Oh, that was great. You used that rule and applied it and it got a good result." I can think of a million times where I said something, stuck my foot in my mouth, and I always say to myself, "I'm never going to do that again," and I haven't. I'll go back and say, "Okay, this is where I made a mistake. I make up for it if I can. If I did make a mistake, and I'm still dealing with the matter, um, and that's probably why I research a lot. I read a lot of case law, kind of more or less because I know I can. If I read it, I'll say I saw that somewhere. It's there. Not that I'm trying to commit it to memory. I just have this recall for saying I saw that somewhere. It's
Okay.
out there. Yeah.
That's awesome. How was your law school experience? Would you consider it easy, or how was law school for you?
Law school was rough for me. Being a person in my family who's never, I mean, my mom had her master's in education because she
Okay.
was a teacher. Around me, that was the highest level of education that anyone that I knew that I could talk to had. My mom had her bachelor's. My uncle had his bachelor's. My aunt was an RN, but I couldn't talk to anybody about the rigors of law school. So it was hard. You know, law is you're thinking a totally different way. No one, I mean, so my first year, I studied. I woke up probably 7:30, went to school, got home at 5. I studied till 10, and I went to sleep. And I did that every single day, with the exception of I think either Saturday or Sunday. I did it every single day, and my grades showed for it. But boy, I was terrified as soon as I put that pen down after every test. I was like, man, I'm going home this week.
That's awesome. What were some of the things that helped get you through the challenging time in law school?
uh, my uncle was huge. He would talk to me a lot about, you're doing something monumental. This is hard. Keep pushing.
Mhm.
Also, I kind of have an internal thing for me that, if I make a decision, I don't want to come home. I mean, back to Cincinnati having failed, and that drives me a lot. I mean, I tell you, I'm a big chip on your shoulder type guy. It it almost drags you forward if you kind of have had that happen before. It just drags you forward. You sometimes you don't even like I'm exhausted, and so that's helped me a lot. I have a lot of internal motivation
Okay.
to go forward.
Has that ever been empty for you? Your internal motivation tank?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How do you
COVID,
re-
COVID.
Oh, okay.
Whew, I'll tell you, COVID killed killed my motivation a lot. Um, I know you weren't done to answer your question, so I
No,
just wanted to.
I wanted to know. Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask how did you refuel? But yeah, no, COVID was a thing.
Yeah,
Thing.
COVID. The calls stopped coming. The doom and gloom on the TV. I was a year. I just got married. I was a year, maybe or so in the private practice, and my career was going up pretty quickly. The people were calling, looking for me. A lot of attorneys told me like your first 5 years are going to be rough. People aren't going to be looking for you. And I was fortunate. You know, I had colleagues who trusted me and referred me cases,
Awesome.
and people were calling looking for me. And then it dried up. There was one point I didn't get a call, probably 6 months.
Oh wow.
Um, and I was just, all jokes aside, I wasn't thinking about TikTok. I was like, my wife she works, don't get me wrong, but I mean, we're a two income household. What are
Mm-hmm.
we going to do if we go down to one income?
Yeah.
And that really drained me a lot. Getting back on that horse, I think my tank still isn't on full right now because
Mm-hmm.
we're just now, a couple years later, fully trying to come out of that.
Yeah.
And I find there's days where I'm like, man, this is rough. I did a lot this month trying to get myself back to where I was before COVID.
Wow, that's awesome that you keep going. And yeah, COVID, yeah, it was a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're continuing to go on that. It's like you have some type of internal drive, even if it's not totally full, you got just enough to keep going, to keep
oh yeah.
feeling. So that's good. And congratulations on your new marriage. I know we've been in COVID for a couple years, so I'm not quite sure. You said a year and you was married for a year, so I don't really know where you are, but it sounds like it's still new. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. What is the next level of being driven while Black for you?
What's the next level? I mean, I don't, I may not fully have that answer. A lot of things you see is smoke and mirrors when it comes to attorneys, like those, when people say, I'm a super lawyer, when you figure out how those things really work, it's like, you're not really a super lawyer. But I think the next level for me is probably what's in my nature. I get this from my mom is bringing along other Black attorneys, whether it
Mhm.
be joining our firm and learning the ropes. One thing I enjoy, I think I say I love this, is bringing a young attorney along and saying, "Hey, avoid this because it smacked your boy dead in the face." And if you can avoid this, you look smart. Um, you know, that's one thing I love, and that'd be the next level for me. Bringing on a couple of attorneys, showing them the ropes. If they stay with us, great. If they go out on their own, great. But someone in the community, putting someone in the community who's positive.
That's awesome. So investing into the future. That's
Yeah, yeah.
important, very important. So you may know, you may not know that less than 5% of lawyers in the United States are Black.
Hmm.
And where you are, particularly in Ohio, approximately 3% of lawyers in Ohio are Black. So for you, what is the best advice that you've ever gotten as to being a successful Black attorney?
Uh, Reach out to other attorneys, Black attorneys, in the field. Um, I came to law school and I was kind of older than everybody. I started law school, I was 27. And, most people were
Same.
maybe 22. and,
Yeah.
and so, at that age, I was like, I was a little bit more sure of myself. and I wasn't a big reaching out to attorneys that were in the practice longer than me. I didn't know how they would view me. I asked questions that I think they may think is weird, or they're weird questions, but it's like this is how I conceptualize it. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to go like that. But now in the practice, I reached out to Black attorneys all the time, and they have nothing but love, and want to talk to
Awesome.
you, and big you up, and say reach out. Man, that probably would have saved me a lot of headache when I was 27. Just come on in and talk to us. If you want to, no, I can't do it for you. I'm busy too. But come in and maybe get pointed in the right direction. I would say, boy, if you want to stay in at 5%, do that. If you do anything, I found looking at everybody, networking has really put them in places they wouldn't be otherwise.
Hmm.
So that's like the biggest thing for me.
They say it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh yeah, definitely is.
Yeah, that makes sense. What um okay, so this is a fun question. What is the title of your album cover that explains your Driven While Black story?
Ah man, when we had that pre-interview thing, you said I was like, I don't know. But the title of my album cover that explains my Driven
Your
While Black. Um, Probably, I guess I'll be generic. It's probably never give up. Probably, or don't stop
Okay.
believing. Uh, yeah, that's what it is. I've experienced so much kind of um, so many disappointing moments. Growing up a little bit more rough than a lot of people around me. Having a kind of rough experience in law school because I didn't have anybody to fall back on. Really,
Hmm.
um, it was a little rough for me, and all I said was, if I keep believing and I keep pushing forward, I'm going to get to the top of the mountain, if you will. And so that'd probably be my album cover. Don't stop believing. I'm going to keep final answer. Don't stop believing.
Final answer. Don't
Yeah.
stop believing. Okay, so is this a rap album, an R&B album, a country album? Where we at? What type of music we got for this album?
I think this album is going to be a menagerie of everything. Maybe a little country in there, but it's going to be a menagerie. It's going to be
Menagerie, that's that LSAT word. Menagerie.
yeah, it's gonna be a whole. We're gonna cross genres a lot. I'm gonna have you know there's definitely gonna be some rap in there. It's gonna be hardcore,
Okay.
especially when I'm getting ready for a trial. But it's gonna be a lot of jazz. It's gonna be a
Okay.
lot of R&B. Uh, it's gonna maybe be some country or something. I don't know what part of that's gonna be in there, but
Country too? Okay.
yeah. I'm not gonna be one. I just know that's my personality. I'm not one genre at all,
Okay.
and that would be definitely a part of my album.
Okay. That's awesome. So you talked about preparing for trial. What does that look like? What is a preparing for trial? So we don't talk about people's their actual journey to getting through things daily. Like what do you do? Do you have a like a ritual per se? You got to play a certain song. Like I have a playlist before I have to go do something big. Like I
Yeah.
literally have a final exam slay playlist. That's what
All
it's
right.
called.
Well, if we're talking about music, and if I've already prepared and I have my trial notebook going, I'm probably listening to the Young Jeezy.
Okay.
That's I think my last two trials. For some reason, Young Jeezy came to mind. But
Okay.
I've been listening to Pop Smoke lately, so maybe I'm gonna have him on. I'm gonna like
Pop
that drill
Smoke.
music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ritual? Like what happened? Do you gotta go for a run or what else do you do to get prepared?
I get sleep. That's
You know,
that's the only ritual I found that has helped me test trial is I go to sleep at 10. I wake up 7:30. I have my notebook or whatever I'm using for the trial in my car when I leave work the night before, and I head there and I make sure that I'm smiling and I'm having a good, just a good aura about me when I get into the courthouse. For me, it's been successful almost every time.
oh,
For
awesome.
me, when I come out like that, even if I'm, because I always say, if I get that gut nervous feeling, I tell myself, you're letting the world come in on you a little too much.
Mm.
Make a joke or be a little bit more jovial. Um, and as soon as I start talking to a jury, it's like we all been friends for a long time, and that's how I know I'm in my groove.
In the right place.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you determine your mood, take your power back, and
Oh yeah.
decide how you
Oh
gonna
yeah.
show up. So you
Oh
make
yeah.
sure you smile. You got your young Jeezy, which may turn into Pop Smoke. And then you just get to going. You got your
hmm
notebook ready. So does that mean when you leave work, you stop work? It sounds like you were alluding to you don't take the work home from that night before, you leave it in the car and
Yeah.
then you
Oh.
come home and decompress.
Um. No. No. See, I get this from the bar. I study for the bar
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 hours, and I put the book down. Because I found that I'll psych myself out. I'll
Okay.
confuse myself. Um, like I said, when I said I rehearse things, I, I, I guess for an example, I have a trial scheduled out now. I'm rehearsing even now. I might think of a question, think of an opening, and I just recursive. I'm real recursive. I say these things over in my head, and I'm not even intentionally doing it. So if I break that cycle with a new case matter or another client's matter, uh, I don't think I'll be successful. As a matter of fact, I've never done it because I don't even want to chance it. Um, so yeah, I'm not doing any other case work if I have a trial. Um, and I just apologize to all my clients when I get back in the office and tell them why I haven't answered. That's about it.
So you stay focused on what's at hand.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving all my
That's
game plays out. Somebody's gonna watch this and know how to beat me up.
I mean, you didn't tell us your particular strategy for each trial. You just told us, some of your personal things. You didn't give us all the juice. You
Yeah,
got
yeah,
little things I'm sure that you ain't tell us about.
yeah, yeah.
So you
Yes,
be okay.
yes, yeah.
Unless they figure out how to block all of your young Jeezy and Pop Smoke or something.
I
I
know.
think I think you'll
They
be good.
hack my Apple Music.
Yeah, if they
Yeah,
hack your Apple Music, that might be a problem.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. So who inspires you?
Ah, who inspires me? Being a person that's largely internally driven,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say like another person inspires me to uh, keep doing this and um, you know. But there are scenarios that I look to and I'm like, man, that's great. Like, I love hearing that. I listen to a lot of podcasts, especially like
Okay.
Oprah Super Soul podcasts, and listening to the stories. Like people's stories inspire me, not them in
Okay.
particular.
Mm-hmm.
Stories of perseverance, stick to itness, keeping going. Uh, you know, Phoenix stories, man. Those are like helps me put stuff in perspective, especially if I'm down on myself a little bit. Um, I'm not a really big like it could be worse person. I'm like, hey, this is how you turn it around type person.
Yeah.
So those are the
Solution.
things. People's stories inspire me.
That's awesome. Same. I love to hear a journey, and to really hear the backstory and what were
Yep.
some of those key things that helped them move
Yep.
forward. So, but
Yeah.
Auntie O is definitely on the top of my list. If I had to choose
Yeah.
somebody, Auntie O, Oprah
Oh yeah.
Winfrey,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be one. because she dominates many spaces, and not a lot of people are bold enough to do that.
Oh
You're
yeah.
always
Yeah.
often told, like, no, you got to pick one. And I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I
I'm
mean,
the one like that.
and you know what? You find out it works well when you do that. I mean, you whatever got you where you were in that one space, you can also always figure out how to translate that to the next space. Um, you know, again, those her story, anyone's story, I can pull something out of it and say, man, I appreciate that about your story. Um, how do I, you know, keep my focus with that?
Yeah. How can I use that tool to fuel mine? That's awesome. So I see the Jesus in the corner. I think that's Jesus. So
Um,
we're just gonna
yep, that
comment on
is.
that because just because. So does that play a role in your story?
You know,
Are you a
yes.
secret preacher that we don't know
No,
about?
no, I'm not I can't say I'm a secret preacher, but I'm
Oh,
surrounded by a lot of uh, I've been surrounded my entire life. My mom is very religious. My grandmother, who I think about, I named my daughter after my grandmother.
oh, that's awesome.
um, Religious. I went to church with her often. I've always been steeped in religion. Um, I, I'm religious to a point, I think, but it's more like, um, would Jesus or God approve of how I am today? You know,
Mhm.
I know all the stories. I grew up in there. I know all the stories. I could probably get through some tests or something. I can't say I'm an ultra religious guy like that. I'm just like, am I being good to people? Am I trying my best to be considerate? Am I doing negative things to people? If I can answer those questions in a great way, I'm walking by faith. Uh, I think I probably have a lot of issues with kind of how the the buildings work.
Mhm.
So I remain in maybe more the faith than anything.
Okay. That's good to know. I mean, at least you're aware of how that works and how it works for you. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. So if people wanted to stay in touch with you and your drive, how do they do that?
The best way is email me. I answer emails way faster than I answer a phone call. So if you email me at my personal email, it's garrison.p.carr@gmail.com. Um, I'd be happy to sit down with you. I'll take you out to lunch. Trust me, because I want you to, I want people to rise above me. You know, if someone
Mhm.
I mentored went on and was a CEO or general counsel of a Fortune 500 company, and I was just, at my firm, it's just two, three guys there, and I'm retiring there. Uh, I'm still happy as a bird watching you fly. Uh, so never hesitate to contact me and reach out.
That's awesome. Does that lunch apply to me? Because I like to eat. No,
Yeah,
I'm joking.
listen, listen. I mean, it's always something to be gained from people. I learned that very early from, again, like I was saying, I didn't grow up with a lot of professional doctorate
Mhm.
level people around me.
Yeah,
I absorb almost anything someone says, whether I use it or not. That's one thing, but um, believe me, I took it in.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. I think you can learn from anybody. I think often we play ourselves small or short when we don't listen
Hmm.
to everybody and everything. There is always something that we can gain from it. So
Yeah,
that is awesome. Well, thank you so much. I
you're welcome. You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time. This was great. Was there any last things that you wanted to share with us?
I think we hit on a lot. I love this. Thank you for having me on. I hope I make the cut, but
You
I
should.
just want to leave people with, um, you know, try your best. It sounds so simplistic, but when you're trying your best, and you that also means you're doing other things that you should be doing, reaching out for help when you need it, um, and it'll work out for you. So that's definitely one thing I leave people with.
Try your best and it'll work out for you. I totally agree. I found that to be true. Try your best, and I would say God does the best. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. I
Thank you. You too.
appreciate you.
Thank you.